Texas A&M is getting ready to face off with Missouri, and the question is, who is going to win the quarterback battle in this football game?
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. On the show today, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about some players to know in this game against Missouri. Who are the guys that we need to pay attention to in this football game? We're going to talk a little bit about what would it take for Texas A&M to make the playoff. And we're talking about why the bye week is coming at a great time for this Texas A&M football team. But we're going to start talking about who is going to win the quarterback battle in this football game. And it's really interesting because I think it's a fun debate, knowing a lot of people are going to immediately assume that Brady Cook's going to outplay Marcel Reed in this football game, assuming Marcel Reed is the guy for Texas A&M, which, once again, I believe that is going to be the case. But assuming Marcel Reed is the starting quarterback for Texas A&M on Saturday, the way Brady Cook has played this year, I'm a huge Brady Cook fan. Every time you hear someone talk about him as a player, as a person, all around, great quarterback, great guy. But I'll tell you, I think that he's been the game manager. We've all heard the term, okay, he's a game manager. That's just who he is. That's just what he is. And while I do believe that's the case, on previous years, I kind of thought that this year he was going to take it maybe another step further. And he's been good, but what I'm saying is I don't think he's elevated Missouri, or he's elevated himself past just a game manager. And once again, sometimes that's all you have to be to win football games. I mean, the completion percentage has been great. He's completing 68.7% of his passes so far in the year, 946 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's taking care of the football. He's been really good. So I'm not trying to take anything away from Cook here, but it's just, I think that there's a world where Marcel Reed can outplay Brady Cook. And that's just based on the fact that I think he is going to use his legs more than Cook can. Now, I don't think Missouri's out here asking Cook to use his legs like that. That's not what they necessarily want him to do a ton. I mean, he does have 97 rushing yards on the year. He does have 4 touchdowns on the ground. But, looking at the way that Marcel Reed's played, if he can start fine-tuning some of those passes, my only real complaint about Marcel Reed now, with this being his, let's think about it, this will be his 4th start, I believe his 4th start. The only real complaint I have about Marcel Reed to this point has been he's just missing some throws that a quarterback, a Division I SEC quarterback, needs to hit some of these throws that he's missing here and there. And, what he brings to the game with his ability to scramble with his legs is so valuable. He is such an incredible athlete. He's a true dual threat. He's not a throw first, get outside of the pocket. He's a dual threat guy. He can beat you either way. And if he can start to just, and it's going to, you got to remember, once again, this is going to be his 4th start of the season. He played in the Oklahoma State bowl game last year after Henderson goes down. Literally, it's funny. I think it was literally the first offensive snap of the game. But, so, he's got that Oklahoma State game under his belt. And then after that, Florida, Bowling Green, and Arkansas. He's played 4 football games. He's a young quarterback. It's going to take him some time to really develop into the passer that I believe he can become. But yeah, it's going to take him some time to do that. It's just the reality. He's a young guy. A lot of these guys take some time to kind of really settle in. And I think that's what it's going to take for Marcel Reed. But I believe he's going to do it. And I think every single start he makes, he's going to settle in a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more until he really is starting to fine-tune and dial in on all these passes. So, but once again, back to Brady Cook. I don't want to take anything away from Brady Cook. He's a great quarterback. He's had a really solid year. He has. Now, he also hasn't played Texas A&M defense yet. I mean, once again, we've discussed this. Is Missouri kind of running in? And somebody commented yesterday, and they're talking about, well, Boston College beat Florida State. I just don't care. I think Florida State might be the worst team in college football history. And then Buffalo beat, we're never going to play that game. Buffalo beat NIU, who beat Notre Dame. I just, we're not going to sit here and play that game. I don't. Missouri really hasn't played that great of competition to this point. And yes, those are facts. You can't take away facts, but I don't believe that Missouri's played this tough schedule. I mean, once again, they haven't played away from home yet. They played Boston College, Vandy, Buffalo, and Murray State. I mean, it's just not this. It's eerily similar to what we talked about a little bit yesterday with Ole Miss, and they haven't played anybody, and then they play a really good Kentucky team with a great defense and lose. I mean, I think you could see a similar situation here, and the difference there is that game for Ole Miss was at home. This game for Missouri is on the road in one of the toughest environments in college football. So, and something I talked about yesterday when talking about Brady Cook was I don't think this road environment is going to affect him as much as a Nussmeier when LSU comes into town, being a young quarterback or, players like that. I mean, it's really tough for young quarterbacks to come play in these environments, but these older guys, I mean, Cook's played in a lot of SEC venues. He's played in a lot of challenging places. I don't think you're going to see that affect him as much as it might affect another young quarterback. So, yeah, on paper, if I had to guess who's going to win the quarterback battle in this football game, I'd probably lean toward Brady Cook. Now, I think Texas A&M, I think Marcel Reed can get outplayed by Brady Cook, and the Aggies can still win this game. But if Marcel Reed outplays Brady Cook, Texas A&M is without question winning this football game. So, it's going to be – I just have a feeling this will be the game where Marcel Reed puts it all together when it comes to his passing, when it comes to his rushing. I mean, we've seen him do it with his legs, and he's done a good job. What I've been most impressed with Marcel Reed is while he's missed some throws and there's been some scary throws and some things there, he's done a really good job of taking care of the football for a young quarterback who really hasn't played a lot of football yet. I mean, he's still not played a lot of football. So I think that on paper, many would assume Brady Cook is going to outplay Marcel Reed in this football game, and that very well could happen. I just have this weird feeling this is the game where Marcel Reed puts it all together, and the Aggies, once again, I predicted, I think Texas A&M's going to win this game. I do. I think Missouri is a little bit overhyped. I don't think they've played a defense, to the level of Texas A&M's yet, and I think that the Aggies are playing solid football right now. I mean, yes, did they win a little ugly over Arkansas? They did, yeah. But once again, find a way to win that game. I think Arkansas is a little bit better of a team than people give them credit. And you're 2-0 in SEC play. So now you play a Missouri team who's good. They're a really good football team. I'm not trying to take anything away from Cook or Missouri. This is a great quarterback, great football team. But I think the Aggies are very capable of winning this game at home. And it's what we talked about yesterday as well. I mean, if you find a way to win this football game, you are putting yourself in such a good position to win 9 games. I mean, you really are. And then you find a way to beat maybe an LSU, and you're finding a way to maybe even sneak into a playoff. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But I just have this feeling that Texas A&M is going to kind of make their statement. I think that, in all honesty, I think they're going to beat Missouri. I think they could win this game by about 10 points. I think Texas A&M's a tad undervalued, and Missouri's a little bit overvalued based on what they've done to this point. I mean, a great example is what happened to Ole Miss on Saturday. And I think you're going to see something similar happen in this football game. Now, obviously, Texas A&M's ranked. It wouldn't be at home. Their home ranked team wouldn't be the craziest upset in college football history, but it would still be a little bit of a surprise if Texas A&M found a way to win this game. So definitely excited to see how this plays out. But I think I think there's a world where Marcel Reed can outplay Brady Cook in this football game. Won't be easy. He needs to hit the easy passes. He needs to take care of the football. You got to win the turnover battle again. That'll obviously be a key to victory. We'll discuss that probably tomorrow or Friday. But the Aggies are more than capable of winning this football game. And I think Marcel Reed, if he plays well and hits passes and hits some of these throws he's missed in previous weeks, he can outplay Brady Cook in this game for the Aggies. We're going to talk about some players to know for Missouri, especially this wide receiver room. We'll have that conversation coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at Game Time. Those of you everydayers here at Locked On Aggies know that I absolutely love the Game Time app. Anytime I'm buying tickets to any sporting event, a concert, go see a comedian, go to the theater, whatever you're buying tickets to, whatever I'm buying tickets to, I'm always getting them on Game Time. It's just the easiest app to use. They have the best prices. I love the way that you can see where you're going to be sitting in the app. That feature is so helpful to me. I like when I go to an MLB game, sitting in different spots, kind of try and find a seat or a place to sit that like, okay, here's where I want to sit, for the near future. I like to find that. And the Game Time app makes it really easy to do just that. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So we're going to talk a little bit about some players to know for this Texas A&M, this Missouri football team. And, I think you got to start here in the wide receiver room. And the guy you got to start with before all that is Luther Burden. Luther Burden is a guy, and I've talked about it. I think to this point, he hasn't quite had the season I would have anticipated. 19 catches, 257 yards through the air, 4 touchdowns. He's also got 2 carries for 21 yards and a touchdown. So he scored 5 times. But I just would have expected him to have a few more yards to this point of the season. I would have expected them to be at that 350 range. I mean, because he is just that talented. He's a guy that I think can potentially be, I think you'd be a little crazy to say he can't be a first-round pick. I'm pretty sure that he's, I have to look at the mock drafts because he's a junior now. He's going to be a first-round pick. He's that talented. He's a guy that you're going to be taking early in your dynasty fantasy football drafts. He's that talented. So he's not had a bad season. Not saying that. I'm just saying I've been fully expecting him to have a better year than he's had so far. He had 6 catches, a touchdown, and 117 yards against Boston College, 76 yards and 2 touchdowns against Vandy. The 3 catches of 15 yards against Buffalo was a little bit surprising, and the 4 for 49 and a touchdown against Murray State. But I'm just telling you, he's a guy that's capable of catching 9 passes for 207 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, that's very much a possibility for him. He's that type of player. And I still think that type of performance is going to be one that you could see in an SEC game, and you don't want it to be against you is what I'm saying here. So it's going to be very important to make sure that the Aggies are able to take care of business against Luther Burden, because he is a guy, once again, who is very talented and at any moment can really, really hurt you. So, it's going to be really interesting to see how does the secondary hold up against a guy like Luther Burden. That's something that I'm definitely monitoring in this game, because if he has a huge game, I think that you are in trouble. The next guy here is none other than Nate Noel, the running back for the Missouri Tigers. Remember last year they had that really good running back. Why am I blanking on his name now? I can't seem to remember his name. He was good though. Man, that kid was good. The kid that was like a D2 transfer, I forget his name. But It'll come to me eventually, but he was really good, and they replaced him with a guy who he stacked together 2 really, really good games. He had 22 carries for 121 yards against Boston College, and then 24 carries for 199 yards against Vandy. I mean, he is moving the ball on the ground. He's up to 441 yards on the ground so far this season, 2 touchdowns. Definitely going to be a guy that you see get to the upwards of 1,000 yards this year. That's, as long as he's on the field, he's getting 100 yards. And, he's the guy that can help you a little bit out of the backfield. He's got 8, 9, 10, 11. He's got 12 receptions on the year so far. No touchdowns through the air, but, he's a guy that he can be a safety blanket, a security blanket for Brady Cook out of the backfield. I don't think that you're super scared of him catching passes, but it's definitely something that he can do. And you've got to find a way to slow him down. I think that last week, Texas A&M did a really solid job of stopping the run against Arkansas and Jaquindon Jackson, a guy who, 10 carries, 37 yards, a guy who I really was concerned about. Hey, can the Aggies stop this guy? So that's something that I'm paying attention to here. Can you stop the rushing attack of Arkansas? Because they have a couple talented backs in that room. If you're able to stop the run, that is going to help you a lot here. But the problem is this Missouri team is so balanced. They have elite talent in the receivers. They have elite talent in the running back room. I mean, we're forgetting about Theo Weiss, the other receiver. This is a top to bottom, really solid offense for Missouri. So Texas A&M's defense is going to have to show up. Now, once again, it'll be interesting to see what this Missouri offense does when they're playing a defense of the caliber of Texas A&M, because, we've seen this. I keep bringing up the Ole Miss game, but it's a great example. Their offense was incredible. And then they go against Kentucky, which I think is one of the better defenses in all college football, but still go against a defense like that, and they're just a little bit shell-shocked. I think you could see that be the case for Missouri against Texas A&M, especially on the road. It's not going to be easy to come in and move the football. Luckily for Missouri, it's an early game. If this was a night game, a 6:30, a 7, whatever, if this was one of those games, good luck playing there. They're probably a little bit happy this is an 11 o'clocker, but still, it's going to be loud. It's going to be hard to hear in there. So if I'm Missouri, I'm definitely, and I'm Missouri's offense, they're going to have to find a way to cancel out the noise. But the main point of all this is Missouri has some really solid players in this football team, especially offensively. A lot of solid offensive players. They're going to move the football, but it will be interesting to see how this Missouri offense shows up to play on the road in a tough environment against a really solid Texas A&M defense. So that is something that I'm monitoring in this game without question. Now we're going to talk a little bit about what would it take a few weeks into the season now. You're getting ready to play your 6th game. What would it take for Texas A&M to make the college football playoff? That's going to be the conversation we have right here on Locked On Aggies. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. There's a lot of fun stuff to go bet on right now. I love the first touchdown scores. Me and all my buddies always do that for Thursday Night Football. It's a ton of fun. It's a fun. We were like, I think how many games are we into the season? Fantasy football. Played 4 or 5. I think we're 2-2 on the year, which 2-2 means you're up. So that's a ton of fun. But go check that out. Who scores first on Thursday? Let me know. I want to hear y'all's thoughts. So once again, that's FanDuel.com to check all that out. So the short little conversation I want to have before we call it a day is about this Texas A&M's team Texas A&M team's chances of making the college football playoff. And, I think that at this point in the season, you're 5 games into the season, you had to have any kind of chance, you had to be either 4-1 or 5-0. You do drop the game to Notre Dame, to start the year, but then you go on a 4-0 run with 2 significant SEC wins, a road win over Florida, and a win in the weird yearly game we see against Arkansas. You take care of business against McNeese and Bowling Green, the teams obviously you're supposed to beat. And so you're 4-1. I think, and I've discussed this a little bit yesterday, but this game against Missouri is going to be so pivotal when it comes to Texas A&M's chances of making the playoff. And because you have to find 10-2, you're in the playoff. I think there is an outside chance that 1 or 2 teams can slip into that 11 or 12 seed in the 12-team playoff with a 9-3 record. So if you find a way to beat Missouri, take care of business against Mississippi State and South Carolina and Mexico State and Auburn, and then you lose to LSU and Texas, and you're 9-3, I'd say you have an outside chance to slip into the playoff. But if you can find a way to take care of business against LSU, Missouri, all these other games, and then drop one to Texas, and you're 10-2, you're in the playoff. I mean, 10-2 with wins over LSU and Missouri, and your only 2 losses being in Notre Dame and Texas, gets you in the playoff. I mean, that's just the reality here. The only thing that I could see affecting it is if, the committee looks at it and goes, well, you got all these home games and whatever. I don't see that playing a role, but that's the only argument you could really make against Texas A&M in their case. But it is definitely realistic for this team to make the playoff. And you got to get a lot fine-tuned. There's a lot you got to get fine-tuned here. Marcel Reed's got to start once again. You got to figure some things out on defense. You got to figure some things out at nickel. There's a lot you got to get dialed in. You got to figure some things out when it comes to your passing attack. We saw kind of a breakout game from Noah Thomas. You want to build off that. You want Marcel Reed to continue to make some good throws and hit some passes and hit open targets. There's a lot that's going to go into this, but there is a world where Texas A&M makes the college football playoff. But here's the deal. I think if you drop this game to Missouri, the outside, I'd already say it's an outside chance, but of you making it. But if you lose to Missouri on Saturday, I'd say your chances go from 10% to 1%, just like that. So if you want to have a chance at making the playoff in the first year of the 12-team playoff, the only way that it's going to be possible to get that done is by taking care of business against a really solid Missouri football team at home on Saturday. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you all so much for being here every single day. We're going to talk a little bit about keys to a victory for Texas A&M over Missouri, either tomorrow or Friday. So we got a lot of stuff still to break down about this football game. I've talked about it. I know a lot of people said the Texas game is most important. I think emotionally, yes, but when it comes to success for the season, it's definitely this Missouri game. So this is a huge game, and we're going to continue to break it down the rest of the week right here on Locked On Aggies. Hope you'll have a great rest of your day today, and we'll see you tomorrow right here on Locked On Aggies.